Moderately annoyed Canadian production, fuckers.
Discretion. Discretion. Discretion is advised. And now your host, the moderately Canadian.
All right, guys, you're listening to the Sabotage Show. I'm your saboteur, the moderately annoyed Canadian here, and yeah, that's right. That was robotic, moderately annoyed Canadian. I've got two great guests with me today. I've got that long-haired creepy guy and James. All right, everybody, round of applause and all that stuff. Say hello, guys.
Hello.
How are you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good, pretty good.
I'm okay.
Damn it, creepy.
I'm fine.
Much better. In your deep voice. I'm doing good. So you guys know we were actually in the middle of a conversation before we started recording this episode, so let's just continue from there on. We were talking about... What the hell were we talking about?
James was rambling on about comic books.
No. Continue.
Where was
we were talking about Buffy, we were talking about Firefly, we were talking about Star Trek and Lost.
No, we didn't mention. I mentioned that I had watched Lost. That was another one that I marathoned on Netflix, and I OD'd on it by season 4.
Yes.
And
yeah.
of course, that's one of those shows where everybody, it's like it starts off like, oh, this is the best show ever, and by the last couple of seasons, we're like, this is crap. Why did we watch this? They tricked us.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me too. I was hooked about 3 seasons. I was like, oh, I can't wait till they open that cellar door or whatever that thing is in the ground. And then finally they got it open, and I think from that point on, the show just got really fucking weird. Yeah,
and not in a very interesting way. It was just sort of like setting things up, and you're like, no, it's they've got to pay all this off. I mean, they wouldn't take the time to set it up otherwise. And like 80% of what they set up is never paid off.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I found go ahead, yeah.
Twin Peaks was like, I mean, at least Twin Peaks, when it got weird, it was still interesting.
Yeah. Well, my favorite moment in Twin Peaks is the last 20 minutes of the last episode. Mm-hmm. I mean, when it goes off the rails, and I mean, I could watch that just by itself because it's just so insane. And but I'm a big David Lynch fan because I like things that anytime I see something and I go, that looks like a nightmare I had, I think it's brilliant. So,
yeah. We both know he just likes seeing boobies and little people.
I got another confession, guys. The reason I wasn't really able to keep up with this conversation is because I have never seen Twin Peaks.
Heresy! Blasphemer! It's okay.
It's one of those things that, like I said, half of it was really good, half of it wasn't, but I'm glad that I can at least say I saw it.
Yeah.
You remember how long that one chick was stuck in the brothel?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're just, you after us, I mean, at first it was kind of exciting because you're like, how's she going to get out of this? And then by the end of it all, you were like, I thought she was never going to get out of that fucking whorehouse.
Well, I'm assuming since John, you didn't see the show that you wouldn't have seen the movie. Mm-hmm. But did you see the movie, Fire Walk With Me?
Fire Walk With Me. I've seen parts of it, but I haven't seen all of it.
That movie is brilliant because it is just so. First of all, you feel like a shower afterwards because it's not like the show. I mean, it's grindhouse meets surrealism, and you just feel dirty afterwards, but it's so just dark. I mean, it just gets so dark and into these really the thing I liked about the show was it takes this place that looks idealistic and everybody's happy, and it just shows you the underbelly of it.
Mm-hmm.
And as somebody who grew up in the suburbs,
Yeah.
I can appreciate that.
Same here, like think about where I live and the kind of, it combination suburbs with the Waltons and, it's, you go into and then take that setting and then it goes into this bizarre, surreal, everybody is doing something horrible in this town, and it just keeps going and going deeper and even more disturbing than the last time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I always love when people say, well, in the city, they've got all the drugs and all that, and I'm like, do you know how much drugs floated through my high school? Seriously, it's just and the football players were raping everybody, and girls were having abortions left and right, and it's like this is people are the same everywhere. It's just in the suburbs they pretend they're not.
Yeah, basically. Oh, I could tell you some stories about my high school. My high school was basically, it was a Christian school in every way but name. Like it was officially it was a public school. We got money from the government, and so like it was and at the time that I went there, they didn't have school uniforms. They do have those now. Since I left, they've mandated those, but it is, my understanding is that it is still that way to this day.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Sure, go right ahead.
How old are you, Creepy?
I am 32. I will be 33 next month.
Ooh, okay. And James, I know you're 33 now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Same age that Christ was when he died. Just saying.
I will edit that part out.
It was like, actually, I've had a friend tell me that pretty soon I will have lived longer than Jesus. She seems to think that that's a sign of something.
Well, you've already lived longer than, let's go off the list here, Kurt Cobain. There's quite a few.
Saddest day of my life was when I realized that all the actors who play the superheroes that I grew up with are younger than I am. Superman's younger than me now. Captain America's younger than me, and it's just like, oh man.
It really does. It kind of makes you look at your life and say, okay, well, at one point I was able to say that I have this much time to accomplish as much as this person has. And now I'm past that point, and I've accomplished nothing.
Honestly, I think I said this before, but I don't have the same hang-ups, I guess. Mainly because my early my early years, my adolescence, my 20s, those weren't exactly the good times, so to speak. Like since I hit my 30s and since I've moved away from those times, I've actually felt better about myself and about life in general. Mm-hmm. So thinking about the idea of going back to that sounds a bit like a nightmare fueled horror film. I mean, okay, even with, let's say, going back with the knowledge of what you know now compared to what you knew then the first time, would anyone really want to be in high school?
No, but I mean, it'd be interesting to go back knowing what I know now, just because there's not a goddamn thing I'd do the same. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think like the biggest thing where I regret is looking back and I really was somebody who had a very rosy kind of view of things, and everybody's got everybody means well and everybody's whatever, and I would go back and slap the shit out of that kid. I mean, it just that got me into trouble more often than I would care to remember. Mm-hmm. That sort of being that naive, but yeah, it's definitely. But it's funny, I think that is part of just being a kid, because I've raised my kids trying to make them cynical.
Yeah,
and yet the school that my oldest daughter goes to, she had a sex ed class, and they taught her everything wrong. Everything in the class was like if you have sex with somebody before marriage, you will never be able to form an emotional bond. Mm-hmm. And like, and oh, by the way, apparently also marijuana makes you lose your mind and makes you violent, and just all this stuff that it's like, where, and she came to me and she's like, well, but this is what the teacher said. I'm like, I've been telling you since you were 7. You know, every time you ask me anything about anything, I always give you the correct scientific answer. And yet, you know, she'll still come to me and say, well, my friend said that, you know, you can't get pregnant the first time.
How do
Hey.
you think you get pregnant in the first place?
Us guys have been using that excuse for years, okay?
That's what I told her as she grew up. I was like, okay, this is what guys are going to say. They're going to say this, 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 and this. And, you know, I wanted to do everything the opposite of what every other parent does. And yet somehow my kids came out the same.
It's that fit of teen rebellion. It's
Yeah.
like they know what they probably hear this and they guess that this is probably the smart thing to do, but at the same time it's also what their parent told them.
Yeah.
So they have to look cool in front of their friends and be like, oh, that's just a bunch of bullshit. Not realizing that having a parent who is that open and upfront with you is probably the coolest thing ever.
Well, and that's the thing too that I realized was that, you know, my oldest daughter is the most typical Midwestern teenager that I've ever seen. And I realized that is how she has to rebel against someone like me.
It's inevitable.
It's all being normal is all she has anymore.
That's all she's got. Is
Yeah.
normal. So, yeah. And but at the same time, when she comes home and she tells me like how her friends, you know, again going back to the sort of Twin Peaks suburbia kind of thing. Oh yeah, this person's mom, you know, is a drunk, and this person's dad hits this person's mom, and it's like, yeah, okay, you go ahead and keep listening to your friends who, they're getting their advice from those people. You know, you go ahead and keep listening to them.
Have you, James, have you developed any kind of persona in amongst her friends, her peers? Are you like the dad that, you know, I don't know, what would you consider yourself?
I'm the guy who hides in his fucking room when teenage girls descend upon my house.
Yeah.
That's the smartest thing I have ever heard a man do before in relation to teenage girls.
Yep.
If you're ever in the background of my videos and, you know, you're only getting a portion of my room, I call it the bunker. You know, I've got everything in here that I need to survive for a few days.
He started preparing that for Y2K.
There's a sleepover or, you know, something like that. I lock the door and I'm in here watching, you know, reruns of you know, the 90s animated Beetlejuice. Or I'm watching Three Stooges while the girls are out there, you know, being weird.
Being girls.
Well, I'll say this: if the one thing, if I could go back, knowing what I know now, I know so much more about the mind of a teenage girl that, you know, everything I thought about teenage girls was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So, namely, that they are far more disgusting than boys.
Oh, dude, look who you're talking to. I knew that when I was by the time I was 7.
I
Yeah.
have older sisters. So,
I've heard Creepy's, I should say I've seen Creepy's videos and I've listened to everything he said because I'm fascinated by his childhood now.
Yeah, it's like
I need more.
I knew what that time of the month was before I could say my ABCs all the way through. Okay, I have stepped on a used tampon before, so.
well, I was Kate. My girlfriend constantly gets mad at me because there are things about the female anatomy that I don't know, and you know, like apparently, like I guess apparently they pee out of a different hole than the one that you fuck. I was like, you know, it's just the same thing, right? And she was like, no, it's not the same thing. Why don't you know this? I'm like, because I don't have a vagina.
Yeah, it's like none of my sisters were shy around me as when I was, you know, when I was very young. I think I was around. Like I said, I was 5 or so before any of them started to really register the fact that I had a penis, you know, that I was not in the same club as them. So, you know, I knew about I knew about girls shaving their legs. I knew how uncomfortable it was when women didn't do that. It's like there was one time where I stretched out. One of my sister's friends, they had this thing where they like to snuggle with me a lot. Okay, like I'm 5 years old, they're in their teens, and they want me to cuddle up with them like a teddy bear. Which, being as young as I am, I see no problem with this. One of them had not shaved their legs, and I swear it was like I was trying to get comfortable next to a cactus. Okay? She had those very tiny, very sharp, pointy hairs sticking out of her leg, and oh dear Lord and Lady, it was uncomfortable. It's just, I mean, like, I cannot describe to you in adequate terms what that was like.
Yeah.
It's just that was the most uncomfortable bit of television watching that I had at that point, that I had endured at that point.
And then,
and I think this includes watching the gremlin explode in the microwave.
and then as you because I know you're not with a woman right now, but like James and myself, we're with them, so we know what it's like. I'm not gonna say too much, get us in trouble, but they're not always shaving, the legs, and there's times where you kind of adjust to the fact that you're often going to get intertwined in your hairs, and there's going to be times where you're like, whatever, I haven't shaved in a week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're together for 7 years, so I'm at that point where it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just, and I remember I would hear all of the guys in my classroom. I won't say guy friends because I didn't have guy friends growing up. I had I had a total of 2 people I considered friends, one in elementary school and one in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And, but like I would hear the guys in my class talk about girls like they knew what they were saying.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing, and it was just every time this happened, I would basically sit there perfectly, as still as I could, and try not to laugh. Because I would hear some of the dumbest shit you could ever imagine come out of their mouths, and they were saying this and being totally serious. Okay, I'm scratching my head here. I'm trying to figure out like what was something specific. It's just, but at this particular point, it was all such a blur for me. I think I remember hearing something at one point, like if you do something, like if I'm trying to think of how he phrased it. He was saying, and this was later on even. I mean, I kind of had this idea that he wouldn't have been this stupid at that point, but we were like in 10th grade, and he said something like, I remember what it was now, I think. This may have been a different time, but this is something that was said. It was like, you can't masturbate for 3 days before you sleep with a woman. Like if you sleep with a woman, if you know you're going to get some in advance, you can't masturbate for 3 days. Otherwise, you won't be able to get it up.
It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Sometimes it's 3 hours before it's going to happen.
Fuck 3 hours. I give you 3 minutes in the bathroom beforehand.
I've jerked it 3 times since this conversation began.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I'm jerking it right now.
This will make for an interesting video when it finally goes live.
Yeah. Oh, you guys, I'm actually recording this one, not filming it.
Oh, okay.
I'm definitely not wearing a shirt right now, though.
Okay. I noticed the avatar pic.
Yeah,
very nice, by the way.
I took that in the thank you, I appreciate that. I took that just while we were having a conversation there earlier.
Yeah. It gets the official creepy thumbs up.
See, you apparently like the one concession that I ended up making for being in a relationship was I can't have an awesome beard anymore. Like that's the one concession that I ended up making, because she's like, oh, I don't mind it if it's trimmed. I'm like, yeah, that's what I don't want. I want to look like a hobo. That's kind of what I want. I want to look like I remember when we watched True Grit, the remake of True Grit. Yeah. And I was like, I want Jeff Bridges' beard. And I can do it. I can grow that beard. And she's like, yeah, you're not growing that beard.
I've actually seen the Facebook page of you when you had a beard, and I don't know how comfortable this is going to make James, John, on your show, but I can remember seeing that picture. It was a black and white photo of him on Facebook where he had a beard, and I just looked at him and I was like, yeah, I totally tapped that.
I mean, like the argument is always like, well, like when we kiss, the mustache completely overlaps your lips and everything. Just let me trim it. I'm like, no, I don't want to see my mouth. I want to have no mouth.
You know what, James? I got to interrupt you, and I'll let you continue this, but I just shaved my beard probably less than a week ago because I was growing it for a couple of months, and she said the exact same thing. She said, you have to, she said, no, I love you with a beard, but you got to trim it. And I was like, but I don't want to. And she goes, well, and my buddy goes, you look like a hockey player in the playoffs. And that's what I was going for. Sorry, go ahead, James.
But no, I mean the cover, the picture Creepy is referring to was the author picture for my first book. Yeah. And I remember like I always had this image of when I was a kid what I wanted to look like as an adult. Yeah. So I thought, you know what, this is the most important picture I'm ever going to take. I'm going to look like what I want it to look like. So I knew like a year in advance that the book was going to be published. I didn't, I let my hair grow really long. I didn't shave for like a year. Took the picture. And as soon as I knew that the picture had come out and it looked the way I wanted to, first thing I did was I shaved my head and I shaved it because it's like after a while, I can do it for a while and then I get bored. I get bored really easy. Like people will see me in one video and I have really long hair and in the next video I'm bald. Yeah. Because I'm like, I just on a whim just shaved my head.
You know what though, James? I was watching some of your older videos. I try to keep up with everybody, right? I try to go right to their backlog stuff. And you know what? I have to say that when you had the little bit of it wasn't a full beard at the time, it was growing, and you had a little bit of longer hair. I don't know if Creepy will agree with this. You look pretty good.
I think so.
I have to say, and shaving your head too, like you look, looks pretty badass, but when you had a little bit of hair, like you look, I don't know, it's hard to say.
I think he's trying to compliment you, and he's just really, really unsure of how to go about doing it.
Yeah, because I can't be like, you know what, James, I'd throw it in you. I'm not creepy.
Like it was the only time I ever shaved down to skin for my head, and I just wanted to do it once. I just wanted to see what it looked like, and I looked horrible.
I did. But
I went out and I said to my family, I was like, I look like I look like it's a mug shot or something. And my daughter goes, no, Dad, you just look like you have cancer.
Oh, great.
She was trying to make me feel better.
Yeah, actually that's, I was told that too. I did that once. I think I was I want to say I was like 19 years old, and one summer, it gets really warm here, and I said, you know what, screw it. I shaved it off with the electric razor, and then I got the Bic razor and the gel and everything. I did the full, bald shave. And my buddy Nick, he comes up to me and he goes, my old nickname was Jomus, Jomus. He used to call me Jomus. I was like, do you know what, Jomus? I don't know whether to kiss you or have sex with your head. I don't know what he meant by that.
Even I'm a little stumped by that one.
He was a
I'm
strange
trying to
man.
picture how that would take place.
I don't know, but he was just that kind of guy. And actually, he's on the site too. He hasn't posted anything, but he's a fascinating guy, and I would love to have him interview on here one day. He's a really good guy.
Speaking of new members, that would be great.
He's been wanting to talk about this for days. Okay, this has been building up inside of him, so if something explodes, don't be too alarmed.
No,
Go
okay.
ahead, James.
I know, Creepy. I'm going to let you make the introduction since you got her there.
There's actually someone on the site who is a little bit of a celebrity. You may recognize the name. Her name is Nika Noel, and if that name rings a bell, it is because I have done in my Midnight Wank Theater reviews, which, if I may plug for just a second here, yeah, that sounded really awful. I'll be doing more of those. Incidentally, It's going to be a separate series now instead of alternating between that and my Looking Back in Annoyance and Scooby-Doo retrospective. I'm planning those. I won't be doing a weekly thing, but at least twice a month they will air on Fridays. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. I did 2 Midnight Wank Theater episodes that were reviews of Nico Noel's films, and both times I did those reviews, I linked Nika to them via Twitter, and that's actually how I got to know her. When I reviewed His Mother's Lover, I sent her the link, and we got to talking on Twitter a little bit, and she asked me if I would review another the Horseman as well. So when that came out, I did that review, and she's like been singing my praises ever since, just gushing over how I do my reviews and so forth. And one thing, I had mentioned to her before I did the Horseman review that she should join the site, and it's like she intended to, she was like, of course I'll join, and then she got real busy. She's involved in like 4 or 5 different studios, or probably more than that, and so the woman is busy. Okay, long story short, but she finally signed up a couple of days ago, and I'd mentioned this to James before, and he was really excited about the idea because James is actually a big fan of this woman.
Well, you've skipped over. You've said films, and you've said film studios and stuff. You haven't said what kind of films.
Oh, well, I kind of assumed that anyone who was listening would know because of what I generally review on Midnight Wank Theater. But okay, you are correct. I have. She does porn.
Ah, yes, James.
In fact, she used to be a porn star. She was on camera at first, and then she went behind the scenes to make her own porn videos. And James and when I mentioned her, James informed me that he has been a fan of this woman since her since her on-camera days.
Okay. Well, you see, sometimes you're writing a story and you got to do research, and it's not something you want to do, but for authenticity, you have to. But the other thing too is, and the thing that I was excited about is being big giant lib. That she's also written, I think, multiple articles for the Huffington Post. So for me to say,
I believe she's a regular writer of the Huffington Post.
Yeah, and so for me to say, Manic Expression has somebody from the Huffington Post. I told Creepy, I said I'm having a liberal geekgasm.
I
so need to use that term somewhere at some point.
Well played, sir.
Thank you.
So you managed to get an ex-porn star / producer?
Yes.
On the site.
Entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur. Okay, I'm sorry. And what would she be doing for the site?
So far she's just a member. She hasn't posted a picture or anything. She accesses the site and so forth mostly through her iPhone.
Yeah.
And for some reason. And we've had this isn't really exactly a new thing. There have been a couple of people who have told me that they have trouble accessing Manic Expression through their iPhones.
Yeah, I've tried it on a Kindle once and it didn't work.
Right. So she's, this I don't think is anything to do with Nika personally. This is just for some reason Manic Expression is not compatible with everyone's iPhones. And I wonder if that might be a thing with webs actually.
Yeah, if there's anybody out there who knows how to make an app for an iPhone,
that's actually
something I'd be talking to you about.
Yeah, that's actually a good thing to bring up because I think that would be one good way to promote the site too, is have an app. Even if you only have like 10 people that download it at first, I do see the site doing very well in the future, and I'll tell you right now why, James and Creepy.
Okay.
When I first joined the site, we were well below 1 million people. Well below. Right? Today I looked at the web counter. I'm sure you guys have once in a while too. We are 1,106,381 on the web counter.
So what you're saying is you're taking all the credit for that.
Every single bit of it. I might have gone to the site 1 million times myself already, but I'm just no. Since I joined, I have noticed that because I was 275 and we are now at 317 members, and it's awesome to see. I think that we're doing really, really well right now, and I think that there's some works in the future that I'm not going to talk about right now, obviously, that we know about. But I think that James, I've noticed you mentioned a couple times in your update videos and also during some of the meetings we've had that sometimes you get a little concerned on where the site's going and if it's really moving ahead. If you look at the web counter, maybe we're not getting a lot of members joining right now, but we are definitely getting a lot of people watching and reading our content.
At a certain point, that's actually better. Because you can have 1,000 members, 950 of them who won't ever do anything. But really, what at a certain point, what you want is people watching, and not everybody who watches or reads a blog or listens to a podcast is going to join. There's lots of sites that I go. I go to Red Letter Media all the time. I never thought to join it. So it's it's one of those things where I sometimes think maybe people are gonna. I've thought this about Creepy's videos and Decker and Big Black Hat Man, and got people who put like a tremendous amount of work into their videos. Like, oh man, they only get like 4 or 5 comments sometimes, and are they going to get frustrated and maybe feel like there's no point in posting anymore? And nobody ever has. Like all the people that everybody's just like, what? I get 4 or 5 really nice comments. And I'd rather get 4 or 5 really nice comments than get 300 on YouTube, 9 of which, most of which are either calling me a faggot or or cast, saying, I'm ugly, or, your mama dresses you funny, or whatever it is.
And you know what? I know for a fact, like I can't say for your guys' show. I know, like I watch your guys' work every fucking time that you post something. I know for my shit that I do, I put up here. I do have people that listen to it, and I know because I know them, and they'll tell me about it the next day, even when I'm at work. I'm like, I didn't even know you fucking listen to this shit, and they do, and I'm like, wow, like, but you don't know that because they're not posting comments or they're not members on the site, but they like what you're doing, and I've heard that from other people, and like you said, just because you have 1,000 members doesn't mean that 950 of them are actually gonna be saying anything or posting anything or.
Right.
Well, at a certain point, if we had 1,000 members or something like that, that's when you start. We've been really lucky with who has signed up. At a certain point, some asshole is going to sign up, and it's gonna cause drama, and it's inevitable that it happens. But the more people who sign up, the more that becomes a concern. So, I mean, I told somebody what I think of for the site is that we're like the Amish. We don't in our community, but we'll sell you our shit.
Yeah. And we'll buy stuff off of you too, as long as it's really cheap.
Yeah.
So James, let me ask you this before we get back to the good talk, because I know we're just talking about manic expression right now. But if somebody came up to you right now and sent you an email saying, I would like to buy the site off of you for $15,000, what would you do?
It's happened. It wasn't. I don't think it was a legitimate offer, but it was enough of an offer for us to end up talking about it, and because it had never come up before, and my feeling about it was that it was. If somebody made me the right offer and it was something where I thought, okay, we're going to be able to put this in the right hands and it's going to improve the site, that I would consider it. If it was just somebody, I mean, I told you the story before about the producer who wanted to make Bloodshot into a movie, and he was just like, yeah, it's about poor people, and we'll really sucker them into coming to the theater over and over again, and by pretending that, I mean, he literally said, by pretending we care.
Yeah. You told me that.
as he's drinking his fat-free water. And
Give this man a big mustache so that he may twirl it.
yeah, it was the most. It was sort of like realizing at a certain point, oh, the reason that Hollywood makes movies about itself and they all portray characters from Hollywood like this is because they deal with those people, and people like that actually exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I can't do it. I can't. And I would feel the same way about Manic. And the thing about Manic too is that if I did that and somebody said, okay, we're going to turn it into, we're going to just basically copy some other site that's been really successful and marginalize everybody, but will promote like 4 people, the site would crash in a year. It would die out because, people come here for a very specific reason, and it's the community. And if you take that away, then we are really just like, 100,000 other sites.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps people coming back. So it's, I do feel an obligation to keep that going.
Yeah.
I would also too. I'm still trying to collect everybody's social security numbers for the big retirement party I'm planning for myself.
Wait a minute. I gave
You're
you my
going to
number.
steal from a bunch of people, the majority of whom are broker than you. I think you need to rethink your plan.
I
Now
don't know.
with big celebrities in here, so
Yeah. She's probably planning on ripping us all off too. What about you? What about you, Creepy? Have you been offered to join another site?
No.
Definitely not.
No. No one has tried to steal me from Manic Expression. I don't know if whether I should be relieved or just be like, okay, here's little Creepy all alone once again.
I did say there was somebody once, I won't say who and I won't say where, that you felt like maybe you were being groomed for something.
Oh yeah. There was that one, like, it was a very odd thing, but I guess I won't say the name here, but yeah, there was. I guess I'll say it was on another review site, and I got several messages and several comments from one of their reviewers, and it was just a very surreal thing because it really did feel like I was being like nudged towards something ever so slightly, and then just abrupt. This was back in the spring, and abruptly they just it stopped.
Yeah. And you were just kind of like, were you on the fence about it, or did you pretty much just know you didn't want to?
I was on the fence. I had no intention of leaving Manic Expression, but I was like, if I got an offer, would I take it? Would I feel good about myself if I did? I was having this moral dilemma that just sort of resolved itself by the person in question vanishing.
But he did ask me about it, and I told him, I said, I of course want you to keep posting here, but at the same, if somebody came to me and they said, I've been offered a job at another site, but they have a rule I can't post anywhere else, I'd say, dude, just fucking take the job. It's if it's a decision between I can have a career or because there's no law that says that you can't. Whatever, just stay in touch with people and comment on people's stuff. And, even, I remember I got a job very briefly writing for a site, and I was posting at another site at the time where I had a lot of friends. And so what I would do is I would just go to that site and I would post the link.
Yeah.
And, people would comment, and that's where I responded to comments, was at the site where all my friends were. And all the people who would read my stuff were from that other site. So it was like, well, I gotta keep in touch with everybody. So, but yeah, I would never begrudge somebody a chance to go off and, do something that they love and make a living off of it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, in the end, I'm like, do I really want to get in bed with this? And I'm like, and this might sound like an odd thing for me to say, but in the end, I was like, well, it kind of resolved. Like I said, it kind of resolved itself by default. But at the same time, after I thought about it, it's easy to think about this in retrospect. But I was like, I just couldn't see it being anything that would end well.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Many people it hasn't.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm just, so I mean, I'm happy where I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm happy you are too, because I really like having you on the site. I'm pretty new myself to the site, but there's certain people on here I've personally really grown attached to and made good friends. I honestly feel like I've made good friends here, and like guys like Mark, and Creepy especially. Like Creepy's been awesome, and James, you too. I mean, like when I first joined the site, it was so hard to get a hold of you. Once in a while I'd send you a message and I'd get a response like a day or two later. It's like, what? I know the guy's probably busy. You were just turns out you were just masturbating all the time. I just found out tonight.
But yeah, I mean, well, I mean, there's I'm not. I'm lucky that there are so many people who take it upon themselves to greet everybody, because I don't always get to do that. Mm-hmm. And then I'll, like 6 months later, somebody emails me like I know them. I was like, oh yeah, no, yeah, but I've never once, and this is where I'm actually kind of amazed by it. It's only been. I mean, I did the occasional podcast before for Tim or for Mark, but or for Patricia, but I've recently, for reasons that will be known soon, and for other reasons too, like the movie and stuff, I've had to take do a lot of Skyping or phone calls. I've never once had a single person that I've talked to from the site where I'm thinking in my head, oh my God, I can't wait to get out of this conversation. I just, I had a conversation with some jerk from Boston.
Yeah.
About, I want to say 2 weeks ago or so. And, I thought, we'll be on for because we were talking about the movie and he's coming on to help me do some producing on it. And I thought we'll be on for like an hour because it was already kind of late. We ended up talking to 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And just shooting the shit well into the night.
Yeah.
And most of the time, if I'm on the phone with somebody, I'm thinking of some excuse. Oh, my kids need me to help them with their homework. But James, it's August. Yeah, homework, gotta go. And I'm trying to figure out a way out of the conversation, and I've never once felt like doing that with anybody that I've talked to here on the site.
It's a surreal experience.
I agree. That's the best way to put it. Actually, you guys, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll return. Will James still be here? We'll find out. Hey, guys, welcome back to the Sabotage Show. I'm your saboteur, the modernly annoyed Canadian, and Creepy has a story for us. Go ahead, Creepy.
Yeah, this kind of came up earlier, but we were talking about early on we were talking about the high schools we went to and so forth. Mm-hmm. I mentioned that my high school was a Christian school in every way but official. It was officially a public school, but beyond that, it was totally a church school. Mm-hmm. It's one major thing that they tried to get to it. They tried to make it a yearly thing, and it was for a little while, but it tapered off pretty quick just because everybody who had gone got bored with it. Mm-hmm. But there was this thing where they would send us to church, where the local churches in the area surrounding the school would send kids to church camp. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if James knows this, because James grew up in a religious household, but your household was Catholic. Correct? I mean, just...
my dad is Catholic, my mother's not, so I grew up in a sort of I basically, it's like growing up in Ireland in the 1950s. Clapper bombs being thrown from one side of the house to the other. Protestant whore, but...
but no.
It was religious, almost the reverse. It was sort of religious by name only. because they didn't follow anything really. So, except when I did it, and then suddenly I was going to go to hell if I kept doing it. So
Yeah. But one thing I remember is like I say this to people, and no one, and I've had this conversation with one guy with Vor, and so far is the only person who has backed me up on this. If you want to get laid, if you are desperate enough, like just I have to get laid, or something terrible is going to happen, and I will be the one doing it. Go to a church camp.
Oh,
I
no.
say this I am dead serious when I'm saying this, okay? If you want to get laid, and you are in your teens and you want to get laid, go to a church camp, okay? That is the only reason anyone goes, okay? Like 95% of the kids there are there because they're going to try and score with somebody. And I am not speaking specifically to the male population, okay? I mean, regardless of gender, that is why they're there. And I will explain why. Okay. 1, if you are from a fundamentalist family, this is probably, if not certainly, the only time out of the entire summer that you are going to be away from your parents' watchful eye for more than a few seconds. Mm-hmm. Secondly, there's going to be at least 500 kids there. The counselors do neither have the energy nor the interest in keeping their watchful eyes on that many kids constantly.
Well, they're getting laid too.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, like, and plus there's that. So, they're not going to care enough to try to watch you that long and that closely. Third, 90% of these kids you will never see again. So like, if you want to, like if you're going to do it with someone and you don't want to have to deal with just all the bullshit that comes with it, like do it with someone you'll never see again. It's basically like the crappy summer romance movies that that Hollywood churns out sometimes.
It's like Meatballs, but more gay bashing.
More gay bashing, and you hear a lot of people talking about hell more. but that's kind of factors into it too. You spend all your day hearing about how you're horrible people, and like you hear about damnation, you hear about sin, you hear about how you need to be a better person, and by the end of all of that, you just really want to do something rotten because you're sick of being told about it.
Yeah.
So like, and what better thing to do than bone the one girl that has the enormous tits, or alternatively give your camp counselor a head in the shower. You're laughing about that, but well, I won't say any names. I was not the one involved in this, but yeah, someone got caught. Yeah, you see, the funny thing about it is, if you are gay, you actually are in a much higher percentage of getting laid than if you're straight at a church camp, because it's not co-ed. They separate the girls have their own set of cabins, and the guys have their own. Yeah. So you spend an awful lot of time around one specific gender. Like when the week starts off, nobody's interested. But before the week is over with, like you're talking about a bunch of guys who came to this shitty place for the purpose of getting their rocks off, and they've had no luck so far. By the end of the week, they're going to be pretty desperate, and something that they wouldn't have even considered before that point is going to look pretty damn good.
Something they went specifically there for. Because I've heard stories where, guys talk, well, I had one experience. Yeah, I mean, I was camping with a friend. It's like you were camping in your backyard, you were gone for an hour, and you started blowing each other. You were waiting to do that. You don't tell me like, oh, it just happened. Bullshit. Yeah.
No, James, can I bring something up? You had mentioned in the episode you did that I did the response video to, you had bisexual experience in your life?
Yeah.
Would you never mentioned what it was or how long ago it was? What happened exactly?
Well, the funny thing is it's one of those things where it wasn't until I got out on my own and lived on my own that I realized there was such a thing as a sexual spectrum. And when I realized that, I was like, oh, I'm not. I realized that the three terms, the sort of gay, straight, and bi, are actually really limiting terms. They're, it's sort of, because you'll be like that a guy who's like super, he'd never even think about it, but, except for the one time that he blew his friend in the backyard in the tent, and, or the kids who, one time my friend and I, we slapped penises together, but that's not gay. And it's one of those things where when I realized that it was a spectrum, I realized, oh, I'm not, bisexual is sort of a bullshit term because kind of everybody is bisexual. And, oh, I'm sorry, creepy. But I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, the idea of what most people have for bisexuality is, well, yeah, but you're with a woman now, so you're straight.
Yeah.
Or, oh, well, you're with a guy now, so you're gay.
Right.
And that's really kind of, that's what people's idea of bisexuals is, that they must be having sex. It's like every other day. Well, it's Wednesday, so I guess it's dick time. For me, it was really like, I considered myself bisexual up until I realized that. And then I realized, oh, I'm really like 90% straight. It's like, it was really more like, I think that for some guys, the guys who are pretty much either basically 100% straight or almost there, is those are the guys who really, when they say, I just can't imagine it, I just can't even picture it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're pretty straight. And then there's the guys like me who it's like, nah.
It's Wednesday, I might as well. What about you guys? Do you mind if I invite the Big Black Hat Man to the show?
Is he on?
He's here right now. Yeah, I can invite him.
If we're talking about sucking dick, then yeah.
Well, on that note,
I noticed James didn't really finish. James didn't go into a lot of detail about his experience there, but okay.
No, we'll continue that. I just wanted to make sure Mark was involved to hear it.
Well, and speaking of Mark, and he was the one in the tent, so.
Oh, poor Mark just walked into this conversation. Everybody, welcome Mark to the conversation.
Gone to bed. I could have gone to bed, but no. Like, hey, let's join this conversation, and I find I'm in a fucking tent or something. I just get home from work. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, you're in a tent, all right, and James is the one pitching it. Let's hear the rest of the story, James.
What was the story? I wasn't telling a story. You had asked me a question about sexuality. Welcome, Mark.
Okay. So the normal kind of conversation that goes on around here. Okay, I'm cool now.
It's one of those. I mean, that's how I kind of see it. I always was like, I'm the guy who. It's not that I'm really like. I'm just more like, oh, he's a good-looking guy. Yeah. It's not that I'm. The difference is, I'd go, that's a good-looking guy, and I go, holy shit, look at that woman. Oh my God, look at those tits. Oh my God. And, that's sort of the difference. The only time that it was ever something that I really thought about, honestly, was after my divorce. And I was just like, fuck women. Fuck this. Fuck this. I can't deal with it anymore. What else is out there? Yeah. And then I went, oh yeah, they're crazy too. Oh. The thing that I'll say, and I really do, this is the thing that and it's the thing that gay people get so much shit for, but I think it's awesome, is that if you're a guy and you go to a gay bar and you want to get laid, you're getting laid. I mean, there's no doubt. Yeah, something's gonna happen. You're fine. You're fine.
Can I get confirmation on that, creepy? Is that true?
Well, okay, bear in mind, where I live, there's not a preponderance of gay bars, okay? But, yeah, I've been in, I actually, okay, I kind of have a story about this, funny enough.
Then Mark.
What?
Mark's in bed now.
I couldn't hear what he said. I missed it.
No, we'll get your story after the movies.
Okay, we'll get my story later. All right.
Okay. This one I actually can't wait to hear. But no, let's see. Funny enough, okay, this is going to sound awful.
Go
I
ahead.
have never gone into. Okay, there was like one time where this was the exception, but it was only the exception because like we were there for like a total less than 5 minutes, so we weren't really there long enough for it anything to happen. But I have never gone to a strip club or a like male or female and not had one of the dancers hit on me.
Mm.
Now, I mean, like like I've been to strip clubs, where women were the dancers, and I've been to clubs where the guy. Well, it wasn't a strip club; it was more like a gay go-go bar. But, both, like I have been hit on by both sides. And bear in mind, this was back when I had put on a good bit of weight. Like when I was still, when I got. Well, I'll just go out and come right out and say it. I had gotten pretty fat. But I went into both of them, and it's like these women just like these women and these guys came up to me and they were acting as though I was just like I was candy or something for them. And I'm standing here wondering like, why don't I get this kind of reception at home? In the area where I live, why aren't people more enthused to see me, this was the point where I was seriously entertaining the idea of moving. This happened in New Orleans, in the times I'm talking about. Now, this was when I was seriously considering moving down there just because, I'm like, why does shit like this not happen to me, away from New Orleans? And, but anyway, I'm assuming you were talking about like guys hitting on me and so forth. I went to in the club I was in the bar I was talking about. One of the male dancers. Okay, I'm going to be very candid with this. This guy.
You weren't before?
Okay, fair point. This guy could not get an erection. Like he had been on top of the bar shaking his thing for for who knows how long, and he had all of these older guys pawing at him, and he couldn't get hard. So like, I like he had gotten down and off of the bar, and he's like, I can't remember. We just kind of bumped into each other, and I said hi to him, and we started talking, and. Basically, I give him a hand job for like all of. I'm doing this for maybe a minute or so, and the guy is like, boing, and he says this to me. He is like, like I have had all these people pawing me all night, and like I come and I can't get hard. I come down, I run into you, and you've got me going in like under 2 minutes. It's like you can't get a pizza this fast. And so
thanks for comparing this to my favorite food.
Try and remember this story the next time you eat pizza.
No.
So I'm like he's like, basically what he ended up asking me was, what am I doing later? Is the line I get. And I'm like, what time do you get off? And he's like 4. I think he said he got off at like 4 or 5 in the morning. And
I just said
basically the plan was for me to wait at the bar until he got off work. And I seriously considered it, but by like 2, I had driven like 4 hours that day, and I was pretty tired. Even though I was there to have fun, I was just by 2-3 o'clock, I was just dead on my feet. I had partied as hard as I was going to at that point, and I was just like, I like wrestled with it for several minutes, and then I was just like, screw it, I'm going to lay down before I fall down. But it still kind of amazed me that I got there's this guy who does this kind of thing professionally, and he has to have the body for it, and he's looking at me like, okay, yeah, you're coming home with me tonight.
I wish
Yeah,
women
see,
were
I've
like
been
that.
to some strip clubs, but that has never happened to me before.
Oh, you don't get. I just assumed that this was kind of a thing. Like if you go into a strip club and sit down, eventually you will get hit on by somebody.
Well,
Nope.
yeah, men who want tips,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
not necessarily like women who are like, "What are you doing later?" Although my favorite story from a strip club is taking my friend when he turned 18, and I'm getting a lap dance right next to him. And about 2 seconds after the girls sit on our laps, I hear my friend go, "Ah, ah."
Oh.
You're kidding.
So, and the stripper is laughing at him. My stripper starts laughing at him. I start laughing at him, and it was just like, happy birthday, dude.
What else can you say in that scenario?
Yeah. What
Mark
about?
has gone very quiet.
I kind of don't blame him. Oh, he's still. Is he? Mark, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I just have no input on the current subject, I guess. I'm 31. I don't think I've been hit on once in all my 31 years. So.
Oh, dude. It's like
I
we need to take Mark to New Orleans one day.
I always would get hit on women who get hit on by women who turned out to be completely insane. It's just always been my luck of the draw that they're it's like you get talking to them and it's like, well, yeah, I love to cut myself and it makes me feel like he loves me, and you know yeah, screw it, whatever.
I'm like, funny enough, James, you mentioned this. I seem to have a history of befriending guys who attract crazy women. It's like I don't know what this. I don't. Like I have known so many guys that are who either are into crazy women or end up dating them or married to them in some cases, a lot of cases actually. So, and I wonder why that happens. Is like because of my growing up years, am I supposed to be some kind of signpost like, do not do this, warning, danger, avoid, do not pass go?
Yeah, where were you when I got married?
Let's see. What year did you get married in?
2001.
I was depending which end of the year was it, spring or winter? Which.
It was I take it back. It was like the very, very, very end of 2000. It was like December of 2000.
Oh, okay. I had just ended my last semester at a community college, and a month or so later, I was working at a general store.
Yeah, I still needed you.
I was also on a different coast than you at that point.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. I needed somebody to go, James, no.
According to you, didn't someone do that and you ignored them?
No, I just didn't tell anybody. And then it's funny because what it was I was seeing a therapist at the time who was like a mentor to me. And I went to him, and I remember I couldn't actually say the words, so I just handed him my marriage certificate. But I remember even at the time thinking, I feel like I'm handing my dad a report card that has all Fs. And looking back now, I don't know why that wasn't more of a warning to me.
I'm like, James, are you aware that should have been your
That's been my moment of going, oh, I made a horrible mistake.
I'm like, not even road flare at this point. That's like the sun going supernova in your face.
And the fact too that I went into getting married and I didn't tell anybody. And I think part of it was because I knew there would be people who would try and stop me, and it was like, they just don't understand. I found love. And it's like, but I think in the back of my head I was going, no, you're sabotaging your life. That's what you're doing. You know that's what you're doing, and you don't want anybody to stop you. And it was something that I look back on, and if there was one moment where if I could go back in time and just punch myself, that would have been the moment.
Yeah, I know. I've known at least two guys who have done this or something like it. And I'm like, why do I keep meeting guys? Why do I keep making friends with guys who either end up doing this or have done this or are in the middle of doing this?
Yeah. What about you, Mark? What is the most serious relationship you've ever been in? And it, obviously it ended. How did it end and why?
The most serious relationship I've ever been in.
Yeah.
The longest anyone's ever been able to tolerate my ass is like a month and a half. That is the longest relationship I've ever had, and I ended it by going, "Hey, I don't want to date you anymore. Okay, we're good. All right,
Yeah.
everybody, take 5. We're good."
No, I won't go see
That's it.
Smurfs with you.
I'm a never been much for dating. I'm kind of shitty about it, so I guess I don't know what to tell you, man.
Yeah.
You know what? That's one of those things where, there since being on the site, I am, I mean, I guess we all are, but we are kind of the older people on the site because most everybody else is like 18 to 22.
Yeah,
And
I noticed that.
And I'll be talking to somebody and they're like, oh, I can't find a girlfriend, I can't, and I'm like, dude, just fucking live your life, okay? It's not the most important thing. I could tell you this because for me, it was the most important thing when I was your age, and it blew up in my face that I made it the most important thing. So just go ahead and live your life and
Buy a flesh jack and and a bottle of Durex and what, in the long run I think you'll find that you will find fulfillment in your own way.
you know what? I think that is awesome that I heard a study, and of course, every woman I've ever spoken to about this thinks that it's awful and it's just the downfall of civilization. But every guy that they've done studies now where a lot of younger guys are saying, you know what? I have the internet, so no, I'm not going to buy you a drink. And I think that's awesome that guys have found a way to kind of have a certain amount of power and be able to say, yeah, no, I don't feel like playing this game right now. Talk to me in 10 years when you're more mature. Until then, I'm going to be on Spankwire.
James knows his way around Spankwire.
I do research. I've had to do research.
He keeps using that word. James, are you sure that word means what you think it does?
That's what my uncle told me.
Man.
I just But yeah, I can remember hearing I mean, like, you live in the South, you hear about this sort of crap a lot. You hear about how when the net started to become this thing, where it was a more household, where basically it was the new television, essentially. Of course, everyone had to get up in arms about how it was awful and horrible and sinful, and it was going to like devour your children or something like that. And I would hear all of these stories about it, and I would just basically end up even before I had the internet experience, I knew most of this shit was either totally bullshit, it was either totally false, or at the very least horrifyingly exaggerated. But like, I remember at one point this, like as early as like the mid and late 90s, where you had these married women talking about how they were complaining because their husbands were like not interested in them anymore. They would rather watch porn online and so forth, or like look at dirty pictures online, because at this point a lot of people still had dial-up, so they weren't
20 minutes to load a picture.
Right, 20 minutes to load. No one misses dial-up.
No.
If there is a universal truth, it's that no one misses dial-up. But yeah, they were talking about this, and like a lot. They rarely delved into this, but I remember there was a handful of women who actually admitted that before this ever started, they hadn't been having sex with their husbands a lot. Like they weren't having sex anymore, and like there were already basically they didn't acknowledge this, but they hinted at there were already issues way before this ever started.
Well, it's not like there weren't magazines. It's not like there weren't.
Exactly. I'm like, I heard all of this stuff, and I'm like, well, it's not like, I mean, before there was the net, there was Playboy and Penthouse and Hustler and who knows however many knockoffs, and it's this is the same thing. It's just you don't have to wait every month. Now you just have to wait 30 minutes for a picture to load.
And the great thing too and this is something that I never thought of it before, but they did a story that I was watching, and that women look at porn now too about as much as men do, and that wasn't the case before because a woman wouldn't. Men will get to the point where it's like, fuck it, I'm going to 7-Eleven, I'm asking for that magazine. I don't care how embarrassing it is. And, women would never do that. And now women are like, yeah, I can look at it just as easily as a guy can, so of course I'm going to.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is that women have always had their own specific brand of porn. Okay. Yeah. I am going to acknowledge something while we're on the air. When I was in my teen years, I didn't have access to, things like Hustler, the aforementioned magazines. So what I did have access to were all of my sister's old collection of Harlequin, trashy, like those trashy romance novels. And I will admit I had a functional interest in this besides the obvious. I was actually curious to know what women found romantic. Like what were the things that women were turned on by? I was fascinated by the idea. What was some? And I figured like I went to books for whenever I wanted valid information on anything. I generally read about it instead of asking anybody because, well, I've told you about some of the people I had to grow up with, so that shouldn't seem like too strange a thing. But I grew up, so I mean, like, women have, like all of those books are basically just porn. It's just they're of a different variety. They're about, like there's all of these stories ran along a certain thread. The primary couple meet. There's some, there's some sort of incident that pushes the two of them together. There's buildup. There's tension. They have sex, and they probably have sex a couple of more times. Something's insanely stupid and asinine happens that causes them to have an argument and break up, and then there's the conclusion where it was all just a misunderstanding and they live happily ever after. Like you can set your watch to it, and it's as predictable as your standard porn video online usually. But at the same time, I'm like, like this was like it was safe for women to read these kind of books. Like if they read these kind of books, they weren't going to be looked down on too terribly. They were just going to be like, they're reading a trashy novel, but it's okay because they're girls. Like it was the female equivalent of the Penthouse magazine. That was what that was about. And I heard all these protests and all these arguments about it, and I just laughed in the end because I'm like, it's not as far apart as you think. Whether you can argue about it and deny it, but it's there.
Well, every girlfriend I've ever had, will say something along the lines of, why do you watch these action movies? They're all the same. The plot is always the same, and the characters are always the same. And they've always got an addiction to one thing or the other, whether it's a Harlequin romance novel or, soap operas or whatever. And
Meg Ryan films.
Meg Ryan, yeah, romantic comedies.
Women love that stuff. You know what? My experience is they love Nora Roberts and Meg Ryan movies, and I can't. You know what? I'll sit through a couple of them. Like I like some of the ones with Tom Hanks, but I can't stand them. Like I can watch them once. Other than that, I'm out. That's it.
Yeah, most like 90% of them are crap.
Yeah. Stupid.
And at the same time, I'm watching. If I'm watching Commando, yeah, of course it's cliche. Of course it's it looks like every other action movie,
Yeah.
but stuff's blowing up. Why wouldn't I watch that?
I have a point to make here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I broke up with the last girl I was dating after she made me watch Smurfs.
No,
I don't know if
jury in
it's
the world.
I don't know if it's relevant, but it's what I'm gonna say.
Well, but that's another thing too, where I mean, where we get there's sort of accusations of guys clinging to their childhood. Yeah, there weren't any guys sitting in the theater watching Smurfs. There weren't that many guys going, oh man, fucking Neil Patrick Harris and Smurfs, let's go. It was like, yeah, that was for little kids and for girls who grew up watching Smurfs. And I watched Smurfs too when I was 4. But, there were other, it's one of those things. I'm trying not to get in trouble either when I say My Little Pony, because I know that there's lots of guys who there's nothing wrong with it.
James has just dropped not that there's anything wrong with that trope.
And it had to be about My Little Pony.
It had to be about My Little Pony.
Something that there's like literally 100 different blog series on Manic Expression devoted to My Little Pony.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where my brother, and this is sort of getting into cliches and everything, but my brother was into My Little Pony and Barbies, and then like 25 years later he came out and surprised. I was like, the kid listened to Streisand when he was 12. Okay?
Oh really? I was into My Pet Monster. I'll never make a video about it or anything like that, but you know what? That's what I was into, but now I don't really care.
If someone had told me when I was in my teens that like back in 93, James, everything okay?
He had his stroke finally.
If someone had told me back in 93 that 20 years down the road, My Little Pony would be a thing that grown men were getting into, I would look at them and wonder what the hell has happened, and whatever it is that you have been taking, you need to cut yourself off now.
And I hear when I talk to I got originally roped into doing a My Little Pony thing with Movie Fan 12 because he had said there were some guys who beat up on a kid who had My Little Pony bumper sticker on his car, and so they beat him up. So I was like, all right, well, I can talk about that. I can't really comment on My Little Pony, but when I did the thing with him, he was saying, yeah, there's vets who come back from Iraq and Afghanistan with post-traumatic stress disorder, and they watch My Little Pony as therapy. It's just something that that they find soothing, and so again, nothing wrong with it. It's just one of those things that it's one of those things where I guess it's apparently it's like the only thing from my there's no Barbie revival or anything like that, but My Little Pony is this thing that people are so passionate about.
Yeah.
And I don't understand it, but
it's kind of for our generation. It's kind of the Betty Boop of now, I guess you could say. It has its following, and it, for some reason, one way or another, it's attached itself to some people. I know I won't say who, but somebody that is not attached, but to Strawberry Shortcake. You remember the character, and that kind of is the same thing. It just it grows on you, and for some reason, it reminds you of maybe an easier time in life.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a positive note though. Ninja Turtles is making a comeback, which
Hell
is awesome,
yeah.
so.
Yes, that's true. If we could just kill the abortion that is Michael Bay's take on it.
Yeah.
The only thing in that movie where I went, oh, good, is they put April in a yellow coat.
Yellow jumpsuit, yeah.
And I said, okay, well, at least there's that much of a nod to it. But I'm
Yeah,
still
but who's wearing that yellow coat, James?
Yeah,
Who the fuck's wearing it?
Yeah, who's playing April? Is it that what's her name, the one that went all drug crazy and all that?
Yes. Which one?
Yeah. The one that was hanging out with Paris Hilton. I'm really bad with names. The one was hanging with Paris Hilton, Britney Spears, and all them.
That's Megan Fox.
Is it Fox or Lohan?
It's Megan.
No,
No,
it's
it's
Megan
Megan Fox.
Okay. Oh no.
It's pretty horrible.
Oh no.
And they've got a white guy playing Shredder, but from what I've heard, the Foot Clan is now like Blackwater, and he's not Shredder, he's Colonel Schrader.
What?
What
Yeah,
the
Fuck.
that's,
Why would they do that?
Why do people keep giving Michael Bay money?
I don't
because
know.
it makes them truckloads of money off the back of stupid people. So,
Good point.
Good call.
I've already. I mean, if somebody wants to go see this film, fine, but I will be abstaining from it. I'm putting my foot down now. I am not going to see that movie.
it's those movies that when I could rent it for free at the library, I might, just to see how bad it is, but it's
Same here. If there is some way I can see it for free, I might sit through it, but I won't feel good about myself for having watched it afterwards.
Yeah.
and the thing is too, I just watched with my daughter, we did a double feature of Clash of the Titans and Wrath of the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
And despite what everybody thinks, I actually kind of like Clash of the Titans, the remake. I actually thought it's not a great movie, but it's kind of trashy in an old-fashioned kind of way.
Yeah. I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I thought it was
I had
boring,
not seen
to be honest.
what'd you say?
I thought the remake Clash was boring. Like I was just bored watching it.
Well, have you seen the sequel? Because the sequel's boring.
It
and
is.
the,
Oh, okay.
the sequel is directed by the guy who is directing the Ninja Turtles remake.
Oh, bro.
And when I was,
One thing. Did they make Bay change the thing about the turtles being aliens?
Yes. So they made him drop that. The studio got so much negative backlash they did make him drop that.
Yeah, I heard they actually canceled it for a short period of time. Like, after the backlash got so bad, they actually canceled it, and they only let Bay have it back when they made it when that was mandated that they couldn't be aliens.
but I wouldn't count on it because I read the synopsis of the early script.
Mm-hmm.
And that had all the alien stuff, and then the turtles were from a planet of turtles, and they were the chosen ones. And it was that you say that they were the chosen ones. But the thing is, in the early script, the Foot Clan was a paramilitary organization, and there was a Colonel Schrader, and all that stuff that is still on the being made into a movie it was in that early draft. So I wouldn't be shocked if there's still some sort of and I don't have a problem either with if they wanted to make like the Ooze have an alien origin.
Actually, in the original comics, the Ooze did have an alien origin.
Did it?
Yes.
Yeah.
The inspiration for Krang from the 1987 series was a race of aliens called the Utrom. They were basically a race of Krangs. They were brain looking. And long story short, they got stranded on Earth a very long time ago. And their entire mission was to wait until human technology got advanced enough to where they could adapt it with their own and find a way home. The ooze that mutated the turtles was a byproduct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's fine.
What?
The ooze being
No, I was speaking to John specifically.
More importantly, though, will Michelangelo be played by Corey Feldman?
actually it was Donatello.
Was it Donatello?
Yeah, it was Donatello.
It was Donatello.
Oh my God! You guys can just kick me off this podcast now if you want to. I'll just leave.
I can remember when they got what's his name, Ernie Reyes Jr. to be in the second Ninja Turtles film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then because of that they had to get someone different to play Donatello.
I thought Corey Feldman was just all drugged out.
Yeah, he was in rehab. He was in rehab when they did the second film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what.
He got busted and he had to go to rehab.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Did anybody actually watch the third one?
Yes.
I did.
Oh, yeah, I owned it.
I will go ahead and I will make a confession. I don't think the third film is all that bad.
Mhm.
Yeah, I really don't. Okay, I'm not saying that the third film is terrific. I don't pretend that. It definitely has its flaws, and it definitely, has a lot of moments where, like you're looking at it and you're like, are they ever going to actually do anything,
Yeah.
at any point, But at the same time, well, okay, honestly, I think the third film was still, I did not like the CGI film.
No.
TMNT that came out in 07. I know some people like it. I that's okay, but for me personally, it was bad. To me, it was really bad. So
I thought it was okay. It was
Yeah.
watchable.
Yeah.
I didn't.
So like I saw it
Great.
once in theaters and I never saw it again. It's just once was enough, and I was just like, and I remember thinking afterwards, the third film was better than this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I mean that's just my opinion. I'm probably, as I'm saying this, inciting a riot somewhere. But I'm just
Well, I would say I disagree with you, but I don't care enough to argue the point. So
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
like neither film's particularly good in the long run, so it's like either way.
Yeah, but I can sit through and watch the first 3 Ninja Turtles films fine.
Mhm.
Yeah, I really can. I haven't watched them in a very long time, but
Yeah.
I could do a Ninja Turtles marathon.
That-
That would actually be awesome.
Do you have a favorite?
And I mean, I would still look forward to the third film. I mean,
Mhm.
I admit, again, I say it's not the best one of the bunch by any means
No.
at all, but it's still not a bad one.
Do you
know, I
guys
mean,
have a favorite? Like Creepy, what's your favorite one?
My favorite one? Honestly, the first one.
Yeah. What about you, James?
The games, favorite Ninja Turtle game would be from old school, like the 8 and 16-bit era, was Turtles in Time,
Yeah.
the fourth one for
That's-
Super Nintendo.
That's everybody's favorite.
was the only one.
Yeah.
That was the only good game. The NES game sucked.
Yeah. It was
The
hard.
Manhattan Project wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't. It
Yeah.
wasn't. It was just honestly, it was a little clunky.
It was the only one I never played.
Uh-huh.
The controls were a little awkward on it on some of the special moves and stuff, but it wasn't bad. Wasn't
Yeah.
as good as Turtles in Time, mind you.
No. Turtles in Time is to me the best one of the bunch.
I kicked myself because they had Turtles. They had it wasn't the exact same thing. It wasn't an exact port, but they had it on in the PlayStation Store to download. I had downloaded the demo and it was great.
Mhm.
And I was gonna download it, and they took it off, and I never got to. I mean, it's funny because I'd gotten I found in the PlayStation Store the X-Men arcade game and the Simpsons arcade game.
Uh-huh. I
Both-
remember the Simpsons arcade game. That was
I
awesome.
loved those
Yep.
games when
Yeah.
I was a kid. And
You can come to my house. I still got my Super Nintendo Turtles in Time. So
Nice.
We need to go. We all need. Okay, that's it. We all need to go to Mark's house one day and play Turtles in Time together. All 4 of us. We can each pick a turtle that way.
Well, I'll go to
The big-
Mark's new house. How about that? Wait. One more. I have to ask James. James, what was your favorite Turtles movie?
the first one by far. I mean, the second one I remember liking a lot when it came out, and then it just dated so badly.
Yeah.
And 2 years later, you'd look at it and go, "Why is Vanilla Ice in it?"
Mm-hmm.
But the first movie, I think it's great. I mean, when I did my top 100 movies, favorite movies, it was very low on the list. It was in the 90s, but I thought it was the only movie that I could justify putting on there that was. I mean, it's not great cinema, but for what it is a great. It sort of integrates the original comics with the cartoon, and it made something that when I was 10 years old blew my fucking mind. You know?
Oh yes, I remember. I was so terrified. I was not going to be able to see that film, and I was just on pins and needles the whole time. I must see this film. I must see this film.
Does everybody remember the cereal, the Ninja Turtle cereal?
Yes.
They had a thing on it where if you collected a certain amount of the box tops and sent them in, they would send you the poster for the movie, which hadn't come out yet. and I did that, and I got the poster, and when I saw it, I unraveled it. And it's the one where their heads are just kind of poking out of the sewer.
Yeah.
And I unrolled it, and I was like, holy shit. Yeah, it was just like, it was just, you know, it was everything that I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's funny because I think a lot of kids nowadays and a lot of people take it for granted that when they see their favorite comic book characters or cartoon characters translated into real life. But like, you know, when I saw, you know, Batman in '89 and the Ninja Turtles a year later, there had never been anything like that.
Right.
And it was just sort of just so amazing and I still get a kick, you know, in the opening credits when they're walking through the sewer and all you see is the shadows. And I'm like, gonna come around the corner any second. It's gonna happen.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about the first film is that they really captured a lot of emotion in the characters.
They really
and I
did,
think that
yeah.
was something that nobody was expecting them to do when that film came out.
No.
And it's great too that, I mean, they have the stuff with like them sitting around the fire and communicating with Splinter through like some sort of non-specific mysticism. And you can't do that anymore because now everybody would be like, that doesn't make sense. You gotta come up with a realistic reason. They're fucking Ninja Turtles. It's realistic. I mean, that's what pissed me off a little bit about the last Superman movie was it's a fucking guy in a cape who flies.
In tights, for fuck's sakes. All right, Mark, I need to ask you now.
What?
What was your favorite Turtles movie?
I'm probably when I was a kid, it was the second movie, but as an adult, it's the first movie because it's the best film.
I agree. Yeah, I'd have to say the same. As a kid, the second one really caught my attention, but then as I've gotten older, I go back to the first one every time, and I just love how the story. It's not all based in the city, and it's not all based around the fighting. There's a lot more. It gets more emotional, and it still kind of strikes you a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you weren't expecting it to do that.
Not at all. Yeah, not at all. They go.
I remember my mom freaked out because they cussed in it.
Yeah.
My mom
She did that too. Your mom did that too.
Yeah, she couldn't believe it in a Ninja Turtles movie. The scene where Michelangelo goes, "Ninja kick the damn rabbit." She's like, "He just cuss."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved that when I was a kid. I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
My favorite.
You kick the damn rabbit.
My favorite was when Raphael's on top or in the street there, and what's his name gets away, and he just goes, "Damn!" And you just hear him echoing through the city. That's awesome. I was like, he swore.
And I
Just
loved
help you out there, John. Casey
True,
Jones
Matt.
played by Elias Kotis.
What was that?
good.
It was Casey Jones played by Elias Kotis.
Oh, I know. I love Casey Jones.
Oh yeah, I did too. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the things about the third film that wasn't very good. Is that they didn't let Casey Jones really do anything hardly.
Oh, he was babysitting the samurai that.
Adventures in samurai sitting.
Yeah.
Time traveling samurai, no less.
I really highly doubt in the movie the next movie that's coming out that they will, you know, that they'll do something as absurd as have Raphael walking around just wearing a trench coat and a hat. Nobody thinks anything of it.
Actually, that was easier for me to believe because if you will remember, it was New York. It was Manhattan in the 19.
They made a joke about it.
Yeah.
You know, but that's what they did in the cartoon. And I loved that they did it in the movie. And it was just like, yeah, of course we're going to do it. They did it in the cartoon. Why wouldn't we do it?
Yeah.
And that's what's missing from
The second and
comic
third
book
one too.
movies now.
Yeah.
Then the first one it was darker than the second and third of the films too. That really I think it appealed to people, and that's why it appeals to us as even as adults right now, because it's like back then we just wanted to see them fight. You know, as kids we were like, oh, I can't wait to see what they can do. But right now we look at it as like, yeah, that shit was actually pretty dark, kind of like the Pee-wee's Big Adventure movie. It was dark.
Well, and I mean, the second movie, and I didn't even realize this until I was a grown-up, they never used their weapons.
No, they don't.
Parents got mad about, you know, there was a big thing about nunchucks. And so parents were like, well, they can't use their weapons. And so they're doing sort of cutesy stuff in a toy store. And
Yeah.
I didn't think about it when I was 11 years old, but I was sort of like, yeah, they did water it down a lot by the second.
Yeah.
That was the thing that I can remember. I couldn't, the first time I saw it, I didn't put my finger on it because I was still, I think a lot of it was just I was that enthused about it, but I can remember watching it and something felt different. It wasn't quite the same. It was off. You know, and I'm not saying I wanted the second one to be the same, you know, the same movie as the first. Just, you know, I like I said, I couldn't put words to it, but it was the tone. The tone had shifted, and you know, it's that really kind of confused me. But when I finally put my finger on it, I was like, yeah, I remember the first one being a little cooler than this.
Well, and the thing too is when you're that age, you can excuse a lot because I remember it didn't matter what they called those two characters. They were Bebop and Rocksteady.
Yeah.
I didn't give a shit that they were Toka and Razor. It's like, no, that's Bebop and Rocksteady.
Do you know why did they decide to go with those other names in the first place?
I have heard that there was some sort of debate about copyright issues, but I have never heard, but I don't know the truth.
No.
Yeah. Okay, if I may, actually, since we're on this subject, if nobody minds, there are two things that we have to talk about since we are on the subject of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
And that first thing is the very first game for the NES.
Yeah.
How many of you tried to play that?
I still do once in a while. Yeah.
Have you ever gotten through it?
No.
Okay. Yes. Have you ever flown into a rage and just, you know, either thrown your controller or ran out of the room screaming?
If I wasn't such a scrawny little wimp, I would have finally been able to break one of those NES controllers. But there was times where I was bending and trying to throw that thing and just, you know, and you're turning red and you're so fucking angry because something, that game sucks so bad. Yeah, I couldn't do it.
Mark, you, any thoughts, words, comments?
I didn't have an NES, but my cousin did, and when we rented that game, we played for like 20 minutes. And we were like, "Fuck this!"
You see, they were the smart ones.
Yep.
Yeah, I had to have that game, and I was like, I had this bad habit of buying games back then, and like half the games I had were games that were either just really. I remember I had several games that were, a lot of them really, that were shitty. And like they were either just really bad or just too fucking hard, but yet the same thing, I found myself going back to them. It was like a substance abuse problem. You know, you would quit for a while and then you would find yourself eventually relapsing and going back to them. The first Ninja Turtles game was one of those games for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. Same for me. I think there was very few games I could actually start playing, and to this day I can play and still enjoy it, and that's Mario Brothers, the third one anyway. And there was one obscure game that nobody ever seems to know about, and that was called Snow Brothers. And all you did was keep jumping up into the next level, shooting snowballs at other guys, and trying to roll them in to the enemies and collecting points. And nobody else knows about this game, but I was hooked on that game.
That sounds like a game that would only be released in Canada.
you bastard.
I think it was released in the States, but didn't they call it Ice Climber?
I was going to say, this sounds like Ice Climber.
Yeah, it sounds like Ice Climber.
It was two brothers and you played
Yeah.
Yeah, and
this
like
was
a
Ice
pickaxe?
Climber.
Yeah, it's Ice Climber.
No, there's no pickaxe. It was literally you shot snowballs at your enemies, and they would turn into a snowball after you hit them enough times, and you would roll them into the other enemies, and then you would further up the stage, up into the next level.
Okay, now it does sound like it's different, but it's close to the same.
It still sounds a lot like Ice Climbers.
YouTube it.
I believe you that when you say it was a completely different game, but it sounds like maybe it was a game, like it was Ice Climbers, and then they just retooled it and called it Snow Brothers.
We were
You know what
screwed
it
here.
sounds like? It sounds like I bought years ago. I still have it. One of those. You ever see like at the kiosk in the mall where they sell all the basically the crap. They sell like a little plastic piece of shit that's got like 50 NES games on it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I bought one, and you know, of course, it's like there's the first 5 games are like classics, and then the rest are shit.
Yeah.
Sounds there's a game on it that does sound a little bit like that, but I'm wondering if maybe that's it. I can't really remember it because it's one of those games where You know, I didn't recognize it from my childhood, so I didn't care.
Yeah.
But there was a snow-themed game, so I don't know if that was it.
Yeah.
But,
okay, my second question, if I may, just real quick.
Yeah.
Also Ninja Turtles related.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone remember did anyone read the TMNT Adventures comic that was put out by Archie?
I did.
You did? I salute you, sir.
I read a couple issues. We didn't really have access to comics where I grew up, but I had a friend who had some, and so I read a couple of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't. I mean, looking back on them, I don't. But I like the darker. That's the sort of the original comics now.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mirage.
The Mirage comics.
The TMNT Forever. It was a TV movie that came out. It's like
that fucking sucked.
I loved it.
It did nothing but shit on the '80s series.
I loved it. We save April once a day here. You can practically set your watch to it.
I just pissed me off. It felt like they're just shitting on the '80s series the entire time. It's like dickheads.
I feel like they were shitting on. I thought they were sort of pointing out, some things that looking back you go, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, but they didn't acknowledge the flaws of the current series, which definitely had its flaws. It was not a bad series, but
no. The thing about it was I had never seen the current series. The only reason I watched it was because of them meeting the turtles from the '80s cartoon. I had never seen a single episode of the series.
I love it. I love it.
I thought it was great to, then they go back even further and they meet the Mirage Turtles, and the Mirage Turtles think that the turtles from that current series were kind of pussies. It was like, you go back and you get to that series and those guys were hardcore, and everything else to them is just sort of like, why are you saying shell so much?
Yeah, it's like, do you not understand the concept of swearing? Which I actually wish they had been able to get through. Like if they had the Mirage Turtles, when they finally get to the Mirage universe, I actually was like, oh come on, just give me one swear word.
Well, I've heard that there is a director's cut of it that it was not put out on. On TV, and it wasn't put out when they put out the DVD, but I guess it was online somewhere for like a week, just to let everybody watch it, and then they took it down.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but I've heard that it's more violent and that there's more action to it. I don't know what that is though. I don't know if maybe that they would have added some swearing to it or something, but even that, I just liked seeing all of the parallel universe turtles kind of meet.
I do too. I thought that was awesome.
The one thing about the Mirage Turtles is though they killed their Shredder in like one issue. So
yeah, it was like I think he died in like issue 2,
something like that. They killed him off.
Yeah, it's like funny. The funny thing about it is that Shredder in the Mirage comics was not that big a deal. Like
no, the Triceratons were the big enemy.
Yeah. They fought a lot of different enemies, but the Shredder was not the big deal in the comics that the cartoons have made him out to be. He was just kind of there, and then he was gone for a long time. And they did bring him back, I think, like once, but even in that particular case, he didn't stick around permanently.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think that it's tragic too that. I don't know if I can't remember the name of the actor who they got to play Splinter in the new movie, but I know of him because every time they have a movie or a TV show that has
Mako. You mean Mako?
Yeah, no. I'm talking about from the new movie, the Michael Bay movie.
Oh, okay. I didn't know they picked somebody. So sorry.
He played. Do you remember on Seinfeld? Kramer had a friend who was a little person.
I didn't watch enough Seinfeld, so I'm probably one of the few people who never watched that.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't watch it much either.
He had a beard. He's is midget the wrong word? Because I find little person hard to say.
I honestly, I'm one of those people who thinks that little person is more demeaning than the word midget.
Too. I mean, they're like, no, you can either call us little people or dwarves. I'm like, seriously? Those are the words?
Yes, like those are the words you're going with now. I mean, like midget sounds much less offensive.
By the way, when I was a teenager, I came up with a derogatory term for white people. I called them mayonnaise monkeys. I want to make that a thing.
You mayonnaise monkey. Okay.
But anyway,
That sounds like something you would hear in the South. Okay, that sounds like some serious shit you would say to somebody here in the South.
but that's who they got. That's who they got for Shredder. Is this little? I just remember him on Seinfeld, and in every movie that has a group of midgets, and he's got this thick Brooklyn accent, and he talks like this, and he's just like, and that's Splinter. That's who Splinter is now. He's not this ninja master who got turned into a rat. He's got this voice. Him and Shredder are not Japanese anymore. They're white guys. And it just, that to me does piss me off. I mean, sometimes people will talk about like whitewashing with characters. And that does, I mean, occasionally I'll go, the character's race wasn't that important, so it doesn't bother me. But the fact is, Shredder and Splinter were Japanese.
Yeah, this is different because their race actually was pivotal to the plot. It was not a footnote. It was, I mean, like the culture that they came from did tie into the whole storyline. So, changing that really does change the crux of the story. Now, in a case where that isn't that isn't an issue, it may not necessarily be something that matters as much, but in this particular case, I think it kind of does.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, like, I know some people were complaining about Khan being turned into a, pasty English guy in the last Star Trek movie. And looking back, I mean, that is weird. But it just didn't bother me. It wasn't like a thing where I really thought, that was really that necessary that he be. I guess he was a Sikh in the original show and in Wrath of Khan, but with that it feels kind of offensive. Like they're going, you know what? Even in a part where the guy is going to be CGI for most of the movie, we can't really use an Asian actor. Like that is sort of a little bit baffling to me that they
that's like something Bruce Lee heard when he was trying to get kung fu off the ground.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you can be the guy in the mask, but
yeah.
I mean, it does. It's sort of. I did feel that way a little bit with Iron Man 3, that they took the Mandarin and they made. I know he was a racist stereotype to begin with, but in the current comics, he's not. And they didn't. They just by the end of the movie, it's like, no, he's a white guy. This character who like is called the Mandarin. No, he's just a white guy. Yeah, we're just gonna do that, and that did sort of. I have issues with that movie. I'm not one of those rabid fanboys that loses their shit, but about that. But it's just it does. When I was watching it, I did go, man, if I was a really hardcore Iron Man fan, I'd be so pissed off right now. I said it about, if they did the same thing to the Joker in The Dark Knight that they did to Mandarin in Iron Man 3, I'd have gotten up and I would have walked out of the theater. So.
Yeah. What did you think of Heath Ledger playing the Joker?
Amazing.
Yeah.
I honestly, The Dark Knight Returns is not a... Okay, here we go.
Dark Knight Rises?
No, Dark Knight Returns. Second one, with Heath Ledger. It's not a great film, But it has its merits, and the biggest merit I can give it is Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker. And I say this as someone who was not a huge Heath Ledger fan prior to that, and who went into this expecting his performance to be not as good as everyone was hyping it. Because I went into this thinking, a lot of the hype had to do with the fact that the man admittedly had died tragically before the movie got released. So, but at the same time, people do have a habit of doing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when I went into it and I saw his performance, I will admit I was blown away.
Yeah.
Because he really was that convincing.
Scary.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not someone who gets scared in a movie, but the part where he's got the guy, all you see is the video of it, but where he's got the guy tied up, and he's filming himself, and he's like talking into the camera, and he starts laughing. I remember kind of going, holy shit.
It is time to shit your pants. You may begin now.
Yeah.
And I do not envy whoever plays that part next.
No.
I mean, really, the only comic book performance that has ever won an Oscar. And the thing too is, a lot of people who dismiss, who hate Christopher Nolan movies and hate that trilogy in particular, say, well, if he hadn't died, it wouldn't have been as big a deal. I think it would have been. I think it was that good. I mean, the fact that he had died, it was sort of like Brandon Lee in The Crow.
Yeah.
The fact that he had died did lend something to that.
Yeah.
But his performance in and of itself was great.
But his performance in and of itself was really amazing. And
But wait, though. I think we can all agree Shaquille O'Neal was robbed for steal. I mean, he really should have been in more knowledge for that performance.
That's true. And Nuclear Man. Don't forget whatever poor bastard played Nuclear Man.
Yeah, you're like, trying to imagine being in Hollywood and you have Nuclear Man on your resume, and like not the film, but the character itself, and someone being like, next.
Yeah.
But
I look slightly like Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah. But the thing that I will give some, I mean, maybe people can't understand it now. I was 6 years old when Superman 4 came out, and I loved it. And it was because it was Superman, and it wasn't like now where there's 5 comic book movies a year. You got one movie every 5 years, and most of them were going to be crap, but that's what you had. And I mean, I feel like that's at least now they've got a little bit more faith in the source material. Like, I remember reading there was a synopsis for what James Cameron wanted to do with Spider-Man in the early 90s. And it was horrible. Like, he was going to turn into a spider. It was not, they weren't even going to attempt to stage, they weren't even going to call him Peter Parker, I don't think. It was just like, yeah, we've got the name Spider-Man, and we have no idea what that means. We're just going to make a movie and fill in the blank. And so he'll have 8 legs, and it'll be a horror movie. And
I heard about that.
That's the kind of thing but I mean, what I find great now is that all the people who make, and that's where I will defend people who make comic book movies now, is even when they make a bad one, I don't think anybody really intends to. I think these are characters they grew up with.
Jonah Hex.
Okay. See, that's one of those movies that they would have made back in the early 90s. When
I agree,
it's like, we've got the name Jonah Hex. We don't know what that means. We're just going to invent something. And we're going to give him superpowers because it's a comic book movie, right? And they had no idea what Jonah Hex is.
Well, that's what they did with the original Fantastic Four movie in the 90s. It was like the early 90s, right? That was just a fucking horrible movie. But they were like, well, what can we do with foam rubber suits? And that's all it was, right?
I mean, the effects on Hercules: The Legendary Journeys was better.
Yeah, yeah.
It got to that point too with even the Batman movies where, and sometimes it worked out. I'm one of the defenders. I actually just did a collab blog with somebody defending Batman Returns. I like Danny DeVito as the Penguin. I think he's more interesting than the comic book Penguin. But then they would get to other characters like Two-Face and they'd go, so what is he? Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And they would just sort of, they had no idea who he was. They just sort of, whatever, we'll make it up as we go. We don't need to read anything. We don't need to know anything about him. We'll just make something up. And they did it with Poison Ivy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they did it Mr. Freeze, they were actually slightly more faithful to Mr. Freeze. They just fucked it up in other ways. But
Arnold.
Yeah, Mark's right. Arnold ruined it.
I think Arnold could have been a good Mr. Freeze with a better director. If they'd said you're playing the Terminator, but with an ice gun, I think that would have been kind of badass.
That would have been the thing he could have That would have been the thing he could have pulled off.
I'm actually, as I've gotten older, I appreciate Arnold a little bit more because now action heroes, for the most part, are really boring.
Yeah, yeah.
And looking back at somebody who, they just wanted you to have fun. They just, when you watched, Predator, or when you watched
Conan the Barbarian.
Conan the the Conan the Barbarian, when Arnold did it, and the one that they did a couple years ago, it's sort of, neither one is a good movie, but the Arnold movie is fun.
Yes. It's like, I mean, and I will admit this, there was a point where I really wished that stuff like comic book films and fantasy films could get more props, basically. But now I feel like they've run into the other end of the spectrum. Now they want everybody to take them 100% seriously. It's like they've gone from not taking it seriously enough to not having any fun with it.
Well, it's what I call the curse of the Dark Knight. It is. I love the Dark Knight. I think I love all three of those movies. But you do it for Batman, and you do it for Batman once. The next Batman movie should not be that dark. The next Batman movie should be, I'm fighting Clayface. This is kind of silly. Give Batman back to the kids.
Yeah.
Give Batman back to little kids. I took my kids to go see The Dark Knight. Okay. I was thought we're going to go see a Batman movie, kids. It'll be fun. And I'm sitting there going, oh shit, what have I done? This is, and I don't really mind them seeing darker stuff, but like I said, even I was a little bit freaked out by Heath Ledger as the Joker, and I've got a 7-year-old sitting next to me. And it's funny, they had the guys over at Red Letter Media, when they did the review of Man of Steel, they were like, how would you do Wonder Woman? And they said, well, I guess she'd have to be a prostitute, and she wouldn't have a lasso, it would be a whip because she's a dominatrix, and she would whip it around her pimp's neck and like behead him. And one of them goes, he's just imagining a kid watching it going, Mommy, why are we watching this crime drama? But it's, Wonder Woman's silly. Put her in the little tiny star shorts and, give her a golden lasso that makes people tell the truth, because why the fuck not? And let it be what it is. And when I watched Man of Steel, I came out of it going, man, Justice League is going to be boring.
Yeah.
I mean, at least with Avengers, they had fun. They had fun with it. But
yeah,
when you've got Superman and you've made him the downer, and you've made him so depressing, what are they going to do with Green Lantern and Flash? And God, if Superman's that dark, what will Batman be?
I do have one question, James. You did mention in one of your Stop the Hates recently, the Terminator, the Terminator movie coming out with Arnold supposed to be in it. As of this time, right now, what do you think of that?
Well, from what I've heard now, they're going to remake it. That idea that I had read was, I guess that was their idea for Terminator 5, and at some point they just went, yeah, fuck it. just gonna reboot it. I don't know if they're doing like a Star Trek reboot where it's still. I mean, with a time travel movie, you can do that, where you can keep it kind of connected and it's a parallel dimension. You can do that. It's time travel.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
Didn't they do the same thing with the Smurfs in the last season of the animated series?
I didn't get that far.
Fuck.
And Mark refuses to comment once again on something
Yeah.
that I said.
It's bringing back.
Smurfs?
It's bringing back bad
don't-
memories.
I watched Smurfs when I was younger, but I don't think I watched the last season. As soon as I got like the little kid Smurfs on there, I stopped watching that shit. 'Cause they pissed me off. They were irritating.
Why don't
But-
we? Why aren't there more movies and topics on the Care Bears? That was something I grew up watching.
Just fuck the Care Bears.
Mark,
Nobody liked the Care Bears.
no, really, I was a huge
Like even
fan.
little kids who pretended like the Care Bears deep down didn't like them. Shut up, Care Bears.
What about Rainbow Bright, Mark?
Fuck her too. I'm getting tired. Can you tell?
I think we've done enough for one
You
night.
gotta put Mark to bed soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got straight. I came straight off of work to here, so that helps you any.
Let's get Mark out to the tent.
Who wants to tuck Mark in? Nobody.
Nobody better be trying to tuck me in. I'll probably kick a motherfucker in the balls or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mark, I will have to say this though. Would Smurfs have been a better movie if that's the movie where they went dark? Like they made Smurfs as like Lord of the Rings.
It'd
Like-
have been a better movie if they had decided not to make the goofiest possible cliche they could think of.
Yeah. Actually, I think in a way Smurfs would be better because you think about it. You have Gargamel, you have Azrael, and you have all of these little blue people who are, on the run and fearing for their lives constantly because this evil and apparently starving wizard, despite being a very powerful one who, he can't seem to afford food, who is either trying to eat or turn them into gold. It's never really specified. But even still, when you think about it, that's pretty dark.
Well,
Well, it was not an allegory for communism, so
take those white hats off of them and make them helmets and give them a spear and have a Smurf army marching on his castle.
Actually, he didn't even have a castle. His home was like a cottage, and it was barely
Well, yeah,
standing.
in my movie, it's a castle.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have the cat. He has like a big tiger beast thing.
I'm picturing Battle Cat in my head now.
Exactly. Oh, if they fuck up He-Man, I'm going to be pissed off.
Here,
They already fucked up He-Man.
About the Smurfs movie, like if they'd have just written some funny jokes, that'd have been actually tonally. I thought that movie was right. That wasn't the issue with that movie. It was the fact that it wasn't friggin' funny.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Well, I'm tired of the fact that they feel like, why do you need Neil Patrick Harris? Just make a movie about the Smurfs in the environment that they're in, in the cartoon, and you don't need to set it in the city. You don't need to get them into the real world. And they did that with Alvin and the Chipmunks, and they did that with whatever other bullshit movies they've made out of my childhood cartoons. And they always feel the need to have the fish out of water story where they're they're suddenly in like the real world, and it never works. It just is annoying.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know about Smurfs because I didn't see it, but I saw Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Right.
Yeah.
And that
But with Smurfs too, they like had Hank Azaria as Gargamel, and actually he was like spot on. Like he seemed like friggin' Gargamel, but he had like the worst dialogue all throughout the film. None of his jokes were funny. Like one joke the entire film made me laugh.
What were you going to say earlier, John, about He-Man?
What?
No,
Master of the Universe. That movie that came out in, I believe it was like 88. I could be
87,
wrong.
I think it was.
Okay,
Actually,
yeah.
I can check. I can find out.
I think it was-
Actually, it's funny you should mention the reason I bring this up is because something will be happening in September.
What's that?
September is He-Man month.
Uh-huh. What are you gonna do?
I'm going to. For the record, yeah, the film came out in '87.
Okay.
I will be covering He-Man,
Oh yeah. Awesome.
and one of the things that I will be covering is the Masters of the Universe film.
No, with Courtney Cox and the guy from Star Trek Voyager. I can't remember his name right now. Oh.
I never got into He-Man as a kid. I admit, like, I don't know why, but I never really got into it very much.
I had all the action figures. I had the castle. Skeletor was his name, the main villain.
Yeah,
you bastard.
I know the basics.
I
know
had
the basics.
literally, I had everything. You guys, it was like the biggest thing in my life at one time.
Oh man, are you sure you're straight?
What? Oh no!
Sure you're straight. Because He-Man is like one of the biggest gay icons from the '80s, dude.
Is that why they called it the Gadies?
It's one of the biggest gay icons from the '80s.
I didn't like Masters of the Universe. That was my point. I didn't like that movie.
I tried to make excuses for it when I was a kid, but even I was thinking, why wasn't this just a badass medieval movie set in a magical land? Why did they have to do the
Fish out of the water, out of water thing.
that's
Yeah.
But I mean, I went from when I was really little, it was all about my Star Wars action figures and my GI Joes. Then I had my He-Man phase, then I had my Ninja Turtle phase, and then Power Rangers came along, and I was like, I'm out. I'm done.
Oh, the Power Rangers. That was actually, I was a big fan of the Power Rangers. Am I gay because I like the Power Rangers too? Or
I love Power
always
Rangers.
I liked Power Rangers as a show to laugh at. The dialogue was always so terrible, and it was everybody was like, I liked how, even as a kid, I was like, why is the Black Ranger black? And the fact that the Asian girl was the Yellow Ranger, and you got the feeling that the Red Ranger was maybe Native American, and
Actually, funny you mentioned that. In a later season, the Red Ranger did find out he was Native American.
yeah, I mean, I just they did that on Robot Chicken once, where they gave, like, Zordon was handing out who was going to be which Ranger, and the Black Ranger was like, whoa. Why am I the Black Ranger? And it turned out Zordon was just a huge racist, and I thought that was the funniest thing in the world. And by the way, I don't know if you watch Robot Chicken Creepy, but they always play He-Man as gay.
Oh, well, that's
They
a
always
given.
play.
That's like I said, He-Man is one of the biggest gay icons from the '80s. Okay, let me break it down for you. You have this 16-year-old kid with long blonde hair in lavender tights and a pink overshirt who turns into this big gay bear dominatrix by waving his sword around, which incidentally proceeds to get bigger.
Well, and
Wait a
Cringer
minute.
was his-
I liked She-Ra too. Does that make me even more gay?
She-Ra, are you kidding me? She-Ra is like what would happen if Mardi Gras and San Francisco Pride mated and then threw up. Okay, She-Ra managed to top He-Man in terms of gayness, okay? It's like, I mean, watch an episode, look at it, and notice how colorful everything is.
Well, like I said, I was into He-Man, and my brother was into She-Ra. Again, nobody guessed until 25. But I remember he had the action figure. I don't know what any of the fucking characters in She-Ra were called because I never watched it. But it was the guy on the show who had the really butch 1970s gay porn mustache.
Yes,
And,
Bo was his name.
The action figure had a little heart on its chest. And
That's canonical. He had that in the show.
Yeah, but you push the button and the heart it was beating, and it was this little pink heart that would come up to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I looked at everybody and I was like, really? Nobody thinks that my brother's gay? Really? Okay.
No, I didn't have any strange articles of clothing that would insinuate that I'm homosexual. I to this day don't even like wearing pink, and I now, as you know, I'm not a homophobe by any stretch of the imagination, but I still like to point out guys that are wearing pink, and be like, that guy's gay, that guy's gay, that guy's gay. I just assume they all are now.
Well, the thing too is skinny jeans make guys look gay. I'm sorry, they do.
Yep.
And
Even I can get on that. Even I can get on board that.
but I remember
Nice.
I was at Target, which is where I'm at every other day, it seems, in my life. But they really should just hire me because I'm there so often. But I remember this. I don't think it was this summer. I think it was last summer. They had these hot pink cutoff shorts for guys. They were jeans that had been cut off into shorts, and they had a T-shirt. This was in the men's section. They had a T-shirt of I don't know the character's name, but the lead girl from Saved by the Bell.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it was this pink T-shirt with her on it. And I'm looking around and I'm going, am I in the men's section? And I'm thinking, who the fuck bought this? Because somebody must have. They're selling it. I want to see the guy in the hot pink cutoff jean shorts and the guy and wearing a Saved by the Bell T-shirt. That guy. And the guy would have been gay. He's never sucked a dick in his life, and he's married to a woman. He is gay.
I'm the same way. You know what, James? I'm the same way. I know it's really bad, but I'll go on a, and I hate to say it, I hate going to the mall, but I'll go to the mall and I'll see guys these days wearing skinny jeans and I don't really care, but the white rimmed sunglasses and the faux hawks, which really bugs me, and I'll be like, that guy's gay. You know what? That guy's totally gay. And yeah, they might be getting laid by women, but they're thinking about men when they're doing it. At least that's
I think even my incredibly gay boyfriend who loves She-Ra so much could get on board with that argument. I mean, like, and especially in what you told me about the cutoff pink shorts thing. Yeah, he would be like, yeah, that would cause him to look around and wonder, am I in the wrong? Did I wander into the women's section by mistake?
Does anybody ever watch any stand-up by Louis C.K.?
Yeah, a while ago.
I saw one and it made me laugh so hard because he's like, I'm not a homophobe, but I remember when I was a kid we'd use the word faggot, and it didn't mean gay. It was just like somebody would say something like, it's pronounced nuclear. Shut up, faggot. And that's what and he's like, I'm not gay. If I saw two gentlemen in the back alley and one is sucking the other guy's dick, I'd be like, oh, proceed, gentlemen. And then if he took the dick out of his mouth and said something snarky, or I don't remember what it was, but he said something snarky, he was like, shut up, faggot. Put that dick back in your mouth.
It doesn't mean the same thing as you do when you say it when you're a teenager. It was just the quickest comeback you could think of. But now, it just grew out of proportion, I think.
It's one of those things where people who say like, oh, that's really gay.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm not a homophobe. It's like, yeah, you kind of are. A little bit. And I get it that it's just a thing that caught on, and it's sort of like, I mean, the thing about rape, the thing about like, playing a video game, I raped you, and you don't think that you're saying anything all that harmful.
Mm.
Until there's somebody who's been raped and they're like not amused by it, and then you're like, oh, you have no sense of humor. It's like, no, you're an insensitive prick. I
love how I've suddenly become the elephant in the room in this conversation.
I actually left. I was burning my Saved by the Bell T-shirt and hot pink shorts. What happened while I was gone? I got them burned though, so we're good.
Oh, okay.
So they're flaming.
Big black hat man returns with his pink shirt and his cutoffs.
But he still has the black hat on.
He still has the black hat, but nothing else.
I really wish I had bought them now and done like a Stop the Hate on Gay People and worn that outfit.
So do I.
That might be more confusing than anything, James.
And never commented on it. Just worn that. Never commented on it. Just done the videos like,
Totally
the way I would normally.
straight-faced.
Yeah. Damn, I should have done that.
Go back to Target. Maybe they still have it there.
I think I shall.
Okay.
What if
Listen,
your
guys,
What if your
I'm
girlfriend
actually
walks in the
going to
room?
cut out. Yeah, I hate to do this, but I'm actually gonna have to cut out in a few minutes because I actually promised to meet somebody, and I don't want to lose certain privileges.
You're so gay.
Well, yeah, you're half right.
Oh yeah, you're so bisexual.
You see, that actually sounds more like an insult now.
Oh man, I take it back.
I'm speaking from a technical standpoint. The way you said that, it actually sounds like it should be more offensive. It actually sounds like it should be kind of an insult. You know?
Mine, like little people and dwarves.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you. You know, like you're being so specific about someone's orientation that you actually make the fact that it's that specific sound offensive.
Oh wow, it kind of did, didn't it?
Yeah.
Well, now that I look
Homophobe.
back on it, I
John, you're
Asshole.
such a heterosexual.
damn you, creepy. I'm not straight. You know this. I'm leaving.
My girl, she'll know.
Yeah. Well, I do apologize for that.
No, you haven't done anything wrong. I've had a lot of fun tonight. I actually feel bad that I'm the one leaving first, but
You should. That is rude.
I'll be
That's
back.
okay. I'm leaving too.
Oh,
I
okay.
can't. I just can't take it anymore. After mocking my shirts and my shorts, I just can't. Stay on the show.
Okay, can we pretend to end this on a high note where we'll actually speak again one day?
I was actually going to say I will be back as long as I'm invited. So
Oh,
I'll be back even if I'm not.
yeah.
yeah, that's
Actually, that's the big irony is I'm not gonna be back for a while because I'm gonna be too busy to be on for a while. So
Oh, so this might be the last time we hear from Mark for a little while.
yeah, for a couple weeks probably. So
Okay, well, so normally what I would do is say plug what you want to plug before we end the show here. So let's start with you, Creepy.
James's penis.
Okay, James, you?
Uh,
If you say Creepy's penis, I'm just going to say Creepy's penis too.
well, there is something that I would like to plug, but I've been told that I can't.
Oh, I know.
So, it will be coming in the announcements soon. So, Creepy wants to plug me, and I've got something coming. So,
And Mark's going away for a while.
yeah, a couple weeks. Sorry guys, I'll be gone for a couple weeks.
Don't worry, man. Try to keep in touch anyway, even though if you're not going to be making any
Yes.
videos.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
probably through Facebook. I'll probably be on there a little bit here and there. So
Right on, right on. And I would like to plug Mark, and at the same time, I would like to plug Creepy. I'm thinking we could get together and have some big plugging. What do you say, guys?
I'll bring the instruction booklets.
how has this been the gayest podcast that I've ever done? And by the way, Creepy is the least gay one.
well, the worst part is I've been half asleep through most of this. I'm going to listen to this tomorrow and go, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, Mark's going to be
How
like,
the hell did this happen for 30 friggin' minutes?
Mark's going to be like, who the fuck is plugging who? And I'll bring the lube.
Oh, good. Thank you.
I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's going to get sore tomorrow. Okay, I got a joke for you before we end this podcast. I'm just going to end it on a high note here. Okay, so... All right, so two gay guys are on the phone, and they're talking, and things are going good, and the one guy says, so I had a great time with you last week. The other guy goes, yeah, I had a great time too. So what do you think? Your place or mine? And the one guy goes, yours, mine's sore. And we'll end tonight's episode with that on a high note. All right, Mark, it's good to have you on the show. And James, as usual, it's great to hear from you again. And Creepy, I love you, man. If I offended you, I am very sorry. I didn't mean to.
I know where you live.
Damn you. All right, guys, thanks for listening. And if you're masturbating to this right now, I don't blame you. All right, have a good night.